Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Freyberg, and welcome to Lecture 4, How to Summarize Anything. Let's dive in. The first question is, why would you want to summarize when maybe your larger writing project is about analyzing? Maybe if it's a major research paper, you're focusing on analyzing, you're evaluating, you're synthesizing, you're doing all sorts of higher order writing projects. Why would you want to summarize? Well, you'd want to summarize because you can't simply start writing that kind of paper. You have to engage the material. You have to show you know what other people have said. And summarizing gives you an opportunity to engage with that material in meaningful ways. How often have we simply just said we're writing a summary and we jot down a bunch of bullet points and we never really understand the piece? Today, we're going to talk about strategies to actually summarize in a meaningful way. Why do you summarize when you're trying to analyze? I'm going to go back to our notion of analysis that we defined earlier in our lectures. I said analysis is a demonstration of understanding and a contribution of your own. We demonstrate understanding of the work and the debates and the conversations that have come before you, and that shows how you understand them. And that's what a summary is. It's that demonstration of understanding. So we need to be very adept with that. What is a good summary? Well, I'm going to go back to our textbook. If you're taking a course with me, you're going to be assigned this textbook, Rosenwasser and Stevens, Writing Analytically. And they say very early on, summary differs from analysis because the aim of summary is to recount in reduced form somebody else's idea. We don't take a lot of time to really define what we mean by summary, right? But it's really about understanding someone else's argument, not just being able to list the topics in their paper or their chapter or their article or their book. They go on and they say, an effective summary doesn't assume that the subject matter can speak for itself. The writer, you, have to play an active role. And a good summary provides perspective on the subject. You're explaining the meaning and function of each of that subject's parts. You have to show you understand how the arguments are built. And I think we're pretty good at listing topics covered in material, but I don't think we're very good at meaningfully summarizing another person's work. Let's see what we can do about that. Here's summary technique number 1, and I like to call it the narrative template. Just telling the story of their argument. Okay, you're trying to get into their thinking, what's their position on something, and what are the reasons upon which they build their argument. That's what you want to really get comfortable with. Now, what that would look like is something like this. It's just this template. And all you need to do to write a good summary of someone else's work is to follow these 5 steps. And literally just make the sentences, put them together, and you'll have a good summary. So the first thing you want to do is you want to introduce the writer. You want to state what their specialty is, what their expertise is, maybe the book they wrote. Then you want to introduce the topic and the claim of the argument that you're looking at. What did they decide? What was their conclusion? What's their assertion? Next, number 3, you want to explain the reasons why the writer arrived at that claim. That's where we get into that meaningful work with a text. Why did they get there? Number 4, how did their ideas fit together? You need to be able to explain that if you're going to do a good summary. And you need to talk about which ideas are the most significant and why they're the most significant in that piece. If you can really deal with numbers 3, 4, and 5 here, you're going to have a good summary. Most of the time, all we do is numbers 1 and 2, and a lot of times we don't even do number 1. We just kind of do number 2 and toss a big quote in and carry on. And that's not demonstrating understanding of another person's work at all. So that's the narrative template, summary technique number 1. You might ask, well, how long should it be? Right? Because we also want to know how long something needs to be. Well, you're going to get the same answer from me all the time. It kind of depends. And in this case, it's going to depend on the reason for summarizing. If that person's work plays a really key role in your analysis, well, your summary is going to be a little longer because you're really going to have to show you understand their argument, not just their topics, but their argument and how they put it together. So that'll be longer. Now, if it's someone's work who's just playing a very minor role in your analysis, then your summary is going to be shorter. Okay. Summary technique number 2. And this is for those of you who might like things more visual. It's kind of a map exercise. And what you do is you write the keywords or terms that you find in the text you're working with. And you put them on a page or you put them on a screen. This is probably a little easier to do on an actual page with paper and pen and stuff like that. But you put the terms out there and then you draw a line between the terms. And on that line, you're going to write the relationship between those terms or those topics that the other person's writing about. In other words, the important part is that line and to explain the relationship, to explain how those terms are connected. And you just continue to do that. That's number 3 here. You continue to do that for as much as you can, for all the key terms, as many connections as you can find. Once you've done that and you look over this map, you're going to see that you understand the piece. You don't understand the piece when it's just a list of topics. You do understand a piece when you've created the connections between those topics. Let's see what that looks like, or what that might look like. Okay, so there's a key point. There's a key term. I'm just throwing them on the page. Key point, key term, concept, key term. There we go. All right, now, what we're used to doing is writing a summary that just lists all those maroon dots. But that's only the first step. Here's the important part for a good summary. Let's say you see there's a relationship between those two. And on that line, write down the explanation of that connection, of that relationship. Describe how they are related, how one leads to the next, how one is implied in the other. Whatever the connection is, go ahead and write that on the line. And you just continue doing that. Now, what you'll notice, I think you can all see my yellow halo moving around. Look at this one. This key point has 3 lines coming to it. And you know what? So does this one. I'm thinking that this here is going to be really key to understanding this work. So for those of you who are a little more visual, maybe this is going to help you summarize a little bit. Because when you've created all those lines of connection and you describe the relationship of how they connect, then you're ready to tell the story. That's what a summary is. You're telling the story of somebody else's idea. Okay, here's our third technique, and I call this a summary chart or a content chart. And before I explain it, I'll kind of explain to you how I came up with it. When I was an undergraduate and into my first year of grad school, I never spoke in class. I was terrified of speaking, but even more so, I didn't know what to say. Generally, I had done the reading, and I really, I would enjoy the reading. Some readings I didn't enjoy, but and I get to class and I see all these other people putting up their hands and asking great questions and having comments and being able to answer the questions. And I just sat there. I wanted to talk. I wanted to ask a question, but I didn't know what to do and I didn't know what to say. And by the time I got to graduate school, I realized I was not going to make it through graduate school if I didn't learn how to find a way to have something to say. And that's when I started doing these content charts. And sure enough, it worked. This chart, which I will explain in a second, helped me to have something to say. And then I had something to say every class. And now I've spent 30 years having something to say in class. So this is the way it breaks down. Whatever you're looking at, whether it's a chapter, an article. Now, if it's something short, maybe you can break it down into paragraphs and you number the paragraphs. Now, if it's a little longer, like a chapter, then you'd number it'd be page numbers, right? And you just write them in this column here. Now, this is obviously just arbitrary. I just stopped it at the bottom of the slide. If your article has 22 paragraphs, then you'll have 22 lines, right? If your chapter has 15 pages, well, then you'll have 15 lines here. So you fill up this column. Then in this middle column, you write down what the key points in that paragraph or on that page are. I'm just going to say paragraph now, just for ease of explanation. But know that it could also mean page. And you just write down what was the key point that they said, right? Maybe there was a couple of points on the page. I don't know, but you just write it down in this middle here. You're not copying and pasting. You're actually writing it out in your own words. What was the point of their paragraph? And then maybe in this third column, you can write down essential quotes. Now, there's not going to be an essential quote from that paragraph in every paragraph, but when you hit upon a quote that's like, oh, that really helped me see, that's their point there. I really want that one. Well, then that's the one you take and you bring over here, okay? And you plop here so that some of these boxes will be filled, not all of them. All of these boxes will be filled in that middle column. And obviously all of these boxes will be filled. And what happens is once you complete the chart, then all you have to do is read down this middle column. Just read it to yourself. And what's going to happen is that you're going to be telling the story of somebody else's argument. You're going to be summarizing their argument. You're going to see how that argument is built. You're going to see the architecture of it, how it's structured, how one point leads to the next point. You're going to be able to see it all on a page. And that's going to really help with your comprehension. It really helped in my case. So there's the technique written out the way I've just explained it. You number the paragraphs, you put that in the first column. The second column are the essential points of those paragraphs. Third column, any really helpful quotes. And then you read down through that second column, and you'll be telling the story. You'll be summarizing that text. All three of these techniques do the same kind of work. It's just going to depend on what you're most drawn to. As I said, it helps you, summary technique number 3 helps you with the structure. So if we come here for the recap, you have 3 techniques to summarize. The narrative prompt template, where you just answer those questions and you will be explaining the relationship. You will be summarizing the text. Visual folks, have a try at the keyword connection map and have a go at the content chart. Read down that middle column and you'll be telling the story of that article. That's how to summarize, and that's how you gain the opportunity to demonstrate understanding of other people's ideas. And it's a great first step towards creating your own contribution. And between this demonstration of understanding and the contribution, you're going to be analytical. That's how to summarize anything. I'll see you in lecture 5.